Okay, so welcome everybody. We cut somebody off there. Did anybody have a question before we start? Nope. Okay. So if you have any questions, if you want to put them in the chat, Mike usually checks out what's going on. So if something that I'm trying to explain isn't clear, just put something in the chat, and then we'll answer it as soon as we can. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to talk about this, the Apps SDK, which came out Dev Days. So I think that was October. So lots of stuff announced on Dev Days. This one I think kind of skipped a lot of people, but I actually think that this is where it's going to be at for 2026. So I think it's going to have a dramatic impact on how we use the web, how we use apps. Basically, it allows you to do everything you want within the ChatGPT web interface or app interface and never have to leave it. So, and if you start using the ChatGPT Atlas browser, then basically you have an operating system now. So you have something that you don't need to leave to do your day-to-day work. So at the moment, what we have is we have a lot of companies out there that are using this, but they're the kind of big corporates like the Salesforces, the Slacks, the kind of things that you see in Zapier. But there's no reason why you can't connect your own apps. So that's what we're going to talk about. So we're going to talk about how it all fits together, how to use it, and then the future. So the future really is submitting your apps to OpenAI Apps SDK, and then when you submit it, apparently they're not really accepting anybody in December, but I've heard that January is when they're going to start allowing everybody to get their own apps in. Back in the day, I really thought that custom GPTs was going to be enormous, huge. So basically an app store that you could buy apps, and this is kind of custom GPTs with a user interface, because custom GPTs don't have any user interface if you've ever used them. And then at the moment, what they're saying is that if you want to monetize this, that you have to do it outside of OpenAI, so you basically have to bounce the customer out to your website. I'm guessing that's going to change. So that's why I'm interested. I think this is another revenue channel that we might be able to use to expose whatever wonderful software as a service apps that we have to try and get more people interested. So, okay. So our agenda, pretty simple this month. Quick look at this month's OpenAI news. For anybody who hasn't been on this meetup before, basically we just cover most of the OpenAI API calls and anything to do with programming with OpenAI. So we're going to look at the Apps SDK. That's going to be the meat of everything we do. And then next month, I'm guessing people are going to be looking at ways to save money. Certainly I will, after what I spent over the holidays. So we're going to look at how to get OpenAI's free open source models working locally. So we're going to use the two local apps, open source apps that came out earlier in the year, just to show people how to, basically, you don't have to spend any money on OpenAI if you don't want to. You can use the what they call open source. It's not really open source. It just means that they give you a trimmed down version of ChatGPT 5.2, and then you can just use it locally, but it's not going to be as good as the real thing. Okay. So news. So when I did the last month's OpenAI meetup, I was really looking forward to what was known as Shitmas. So I couldn't remember what it was called, but I looked it up. So bah humbug, there wasn't a Shitmas this year. So what they did in 2024 was we got 12 days of OpenAI releases. So we didn't get that this year. The things that did come out was there's a new version of GPT-5, which is 5.2, and then the 5.2 codex, which is for code generation. Also, what used to be known as DALL-E got an upgrade, and that's pretty interesting. So if you haven't played around with the latest image modeling, because they have to catch up with Gemini, Nano Banana and all that stuff, it's pretty good now. It's a significant increase, and that really seems to have not hit any of the radars of any of the people who were talking about it. So I have a look at that if you're especially interested in DALL-E. And then the other big news, which when I put this meetup there was like, get ready for submitting your apps. Well, you can submit your apps now. So in the playground, and we'll talk about that a little bit towards the end, and some of the things that you want to look for. I did find a couple of people on Reddit who'd already submitted, so we're going to just look at their recommendations so that you can do lessons learned, and if you have an app that you want to submit, learn how to do it. And then I'm a big Spotify guy, so I have a 2025 meetup recap video, which I'm going to share the link at the end to as well. So it's a pretty good year for us. So we added over 1,000 members. So we're 1,400. So pretty interesting growth in what we're doing in the meetups. I noticed that most of the meetups have lots of new people, so I'm hoping we get more returnees next year. I'm also thinking of doing a back to basics, like a university course using YouTube's courses. So we'll probably do that just to show people how to navigate all the different things and with the OpenAI API, because it's getting quite a large area of interest. So here's our agenda. So we're going to do a brief introduction to ChatGPT App, show you what they look like, look at how you would use it by going through a couple of walkthroughs. I don't think the ChatGPT architecture is fully baked. It feels a bit kludgy, which we'll get into later. But it is what it is, and it means that we can now connect external apps inside of our ChatGPT, and no doubt that will improve. Also interested to hear what they're thinking about how people are going to monetize this. But at the moment, what we have is, if you look on the left-hand side, if you reference Booking.com or Spotify or Instacart or any of the apps that are out there, it's going to, assuming you have access, it's going to use those. So it's like Find Me a Hotel in Paris. So it's going to basically pull up a mini user interface, Booking.com user interface. But you could do all the things that you could do with the Booking.com app within ChatGPT. We'll talk about what makes an app, like why would you do this? We'll build a couple of custom apps. One of the reasons that I really wanted to do this month was to try and figure out how to do something with some of our own apps. I also found that the examples that are out there, they seem to be suffering from the Google disease. So Google, when they release a tutorial, it's a huge tutorial. And if you're somebody who's just trying to get into the technology, it can be very difficult to get going. And now I've noticed that some of the OpenAI examples, especially on the Python side, you need to know what you're doing before you can get them to work. So what I've done is I've got two really stupid, simple examples for showing you how it all fits together, so that when maybe the next time that we revisit this, we go and have a look at the more complicated examples. So a little bit disappointed about how they're rolling this out, but I think that's maybe one of the reasons why it's not as big as the. Okay, and then finally, what we're going to do is we're going to look at how to submit the app in the playground, so that you can, other users can invoke your app so that they can start playing with it. Okay, so like I said, ChatGPT allows you to connect outside websites, perform tasks without leaving the ChatGPT web interface. So we're really talking about software as a service products or general apps out there that the first one is OpenTable that I'm looking at. The cool thing is that it basically means no more cut and pasting between windows. So I kind of fed up of seeing those annoying messages where ChatGPT says, I can't talk to Spotify or Booking.com, but here's what you want to do if you want to try to do what you've just asked ChatGPT to do. So in this case, what we're doing is find me an Italian restaurant for New Year's Eve for 4 people at 7 p.m. And it will go out to OpenTable, assuming that you've connected. And you can basically walk through the walkthrough. So the way that you reference it is that you tell it to use OpenTable, or you at OpenTable, or you at Spotify, whatever it is you're trying to do. And it's going to know that that's what you want to use to for your prompt, for your chat. And we've talked during the year a ton about MCPs, which are these backend API servers. MCP stands for Model Context Protocol, but basically it is a way for you to talk to any backend website using the natural language that we use within LLMs. And all that apps are within our ChatGPT is that they're MCPs with just some HTML, so we have a user interface. So they're very different from custom GPTs. Custom GPTs do not have a UI. MCPs do not have a UI, but apps have MCPs with this user interface that allows us to talk backwards and forwards, to create a loop. So I think the best way to think of ChatGPT apps is just an MCP with a HTML front end. So let's get out of this. Let's have a look at how you would call this. So got all my resources up there. We can go through them in a second. So I am in developer mode at the moment, and I'll show you how to get there in a second. So the way that you get to your apps is that you go to apps here, and you can see all the apps that you're connected to. In this case, what I wanted to do is connect to OpenTable. So I say look for connectors, and then now you can see all the different apps that are there. So like I said, this is kind of, I think they're really going after the Zapier. They're essentially connecting to a lot of the same things that you would see there. What I want to do is I want to connect to OpenTable. So what I just say is connect. Sometimes you don't really have to do this. You can get it to come up anyway. So I want to start a chat. And as you can see, it's already connected to OpenTable. Can't spell. Okay. So it's looking for available tools. That didn't work. Let's try it again. The joys of demos. Okay, let's see if it does it again. No. Okay, great. Thanks very much. Yeah, like I said, a lot of this is kind of half-baked. Never mind, we can go do another one. So here's another one that I was playing with earlier. So I go to my apps. I can see now I'm connected to OpenTable. Let's see if I can connect to Instacart. Let's do connect. Okay, so it's gonna, I need to log into Instacart. It's going to send me. So at this stage, we're outside of what we're trying to do, outside of ChatGPT, but once you do it once, you won't have to do it again. And I think what's going to happen then is that it's going to be the way that you would monetize it. I know I've used a couple of custom GPTs, and they typically what they do is when they want to get some money off me, that what they pop me out to the website, and then they ask me to log in and pay for a monthly subscription. So if you have an app that you really want to put out there and you want to charge for it, that would be the way to do it. Okay, hopefully this works better. Okay, so let's say at Instacart. Maybe that's why the OpenTable didn't work before. Okay, so now we're within the user interface. So I'm going to say I want to do Myers. And it's going to walk me through how to order some stuff. It's going to ask me for permissions. In this case, I'm just saying yes. Okay, and then, you know, you basically add stuff, check out. Don't want to kind of order it now. Send somebody on a rogue event, a rogue trip on New Year's Eve. So we're not going to do that. So basically, the thing is that you have access to this. You can order it. And then you can also schedule it. So I don't know if you know that within ChatGPT, you can schedule prompts. So maybe that you want to do your weekly shopping and you know what you want. You just want to get the basics every Monday. So what you would do is just set this up and get it to automatically run through it. So it could do this for you to kind of simplify just a small part of your life. Okay, so but the concept is, apart from the actual first login, that you don't have to leave it. You can stay within the interface. Okay, another one that big thing that I'm interested in is music. I'm always just I use it a lot for just keeping the ADHD down. I always have to have something on in the background. So even at my late age, I'm always trying to find new music, especially Irish music. And one of the things that I like to do at the end of the year is I like to look at all of the, oh no, it's going to ask me to log in. Okay, it's going to ask me for, I'm always wanting to find out what are the latest and greatest things that have happened at the end of 25. It's one of the best things that I love at the end of the year, is finding all the music that other people are recommending that I don't necessarily know. So what I did is, what I typically do is I just have to go and create my own playlist, which is a royal pain, as you probably would know, but if you do a lot of this, so let me just show you a chat that I did earlier. And again, it's not perfect like we had with the open table example, but it gets there eventually. So what I started off with was, there is a website called allmusic.com, which is it lists the best music of the last year. So they have a lot of different editors. So I thought, well, that's a good way to start. And what I said was, collect the top 20 songs from the list of songs from multiple reviewers. I want to know the ones that came up most often from the different reviewers. So we get the best of the best for the year. It didn't like reading the HTML. So to kick it, I just gave it all the information. And then towards the end, I said, okay, well, make me a Spotify playlist of the top 10. So it goes, because we're connected to Spotify. And then we have the consensus of the music. So if I then link to this, I just leave it on the web. I won't open the app. So instead of me having to go and manually do this cut and paste all the time, I don't have to worry about it, because Spotify will do it for me. Okay. All right, so definitely making my life easier. So when I say a user interface, you can see that this is something that's completely separate from our standard ChatGPT prompts. So this uses an iframe. So iframes were first brought out by Microsoft, the old browser, Microsoft's old browser, years and years ago. So it's a floating frame, essentially, within your HTML. All that OpenAI are doing is that they're just allowing you to inject HTML code so that the user can interact with it while they're within their prompts. Like I said, not exactly the world's most advanced architecture, but it works. Okay, so let's go back to where we were. Okay, so Spotify, we did that. Instacart, we did that. See that the prompt, you can either say, hey, Instacart, or you can just at it. Both of them seem to work quite well. There are dozens and dozens and dozens out there. So what I'm seeing, that most of the things that are out there are the type of things, are software as a services apps. So basically anything that you see on Zapier. So I see a lot of agents for, so like Salesforce is in there, Airtable's in there, Notion's in there, Slack's in there, Atlassian, all these kind of things. So there are also, tons of productivity apps, and the lifestyle ones would be the ones that we showed, which would be the Instacart, Booking.com, and then the Spotify's of the world. Okay, so I said earlier that we were going to look at two different examples. So I took this diagram from a blog, which you can find in the resources slide, from this MCP Jam website. And as we said, the ChatGPT app is an MCP with a HTML front end or widget. So if you've been doing anything with programming LLMs over the last 6 to 8 months, you're probably already used to doing some MCP stuff. If you haven't, we've done a couple of talks on it earlier. So we had there's 1 or 2 blogs up on our website, and we definitely did a really long YouTube. If you want to go back and look at the playlist, it will to learn some more about how to do MCPs. So in this case, so in the diagram, so everything starts in ChatGPT. So you're saying Spotify, so then ChatGPT knows, okay, you want to use Spotify. So the user references the app. The LLM will do a tool call to the MCP we built. So there's this MCP server here, and we have a bunch of different tools. So in this case, it says show Spotify playlist. So we're passing it a request to say, give me songs from my favorite artist I haven't played yet. And then it's usually what would happen if you were just calling an MCP would be that you would get a JSON playlist of all the things that you ask for. So you say, hey, Spotify, here's the music that I'm interested in. Can you recommend, can you give me a suitable playlist? And together with the LLM, sometimes the LLM will generate it for you and then send the request to the MCP, and then the MCP will generate the actual list of all the JSON of all the songs that you want to hear. But there's an extra bit. So we have an extra bit that we're doing, which is we tell the MCP to point to a widget resource. So what it's doing in here is it's saying we have an output template. So the output template is widget Spotify playlist.html. So we have to create 2 things when we're doing our apps. We have to create the MCP so that OpenAI knows what to talk to. And then within the MCP, we have to create a piece of HTML. And the HTML is basically the web page that we have for whatever iframe that we're returning to the user, so that they can either see what the answer is, or like the Instacart example, interact with it so that they can do more, so they can be in a loop. So it's like, okay, what store do you want? I want Kroger, so there has to be HTML for that kind of thing. So that essentially is how it's working. There is also a Windows OpenAI method in here, which is basically what we're injecting into. So once we have control over that Windows.OpenAI call, the tool call, we can use that to inject our widget so that ChatGPT says, oh, okay, I understand what you're trying to do now. I'll just display this widget and I'll insert whatever text that came back from the LLM call appropriately. Okay. I'll return to that in a second because I know that gets kind of confusing. So, and a lot of what we're doing here, I found that when I was going through the examples, it was kind of overwhelming. So I really am trying to dumb it down. So we're going to do the 2 apps. We have just a simple multiplication. So we're going to create a second. So somebody else in. So what we're going to do is we're just going to create a multiplication Python MCP, which doesn't have any user interface at all, just so you can see how how it works together. And then we're going to have one that has a very simple pizza, which is a LLM call to our MCP, and our MCP is going to have some HTML, which allows us to put a topping on our pizza. There's also another example out there, which is in the Quickstart, and I'll show you where all those resources are. But I wasn't a huge fan of that because it's in JavaScript, and most of all that we do in these meetups are in Python, so I wanted to find a Python version. But if you do want to go to the next level after we've gone through our couple of examples, the to-do list on the Quickstart is a good place to start. And then there are about a half a dozen other examples which are in the OpenAI GitHub repo, and links to all of those resources, which I'm going to be able to post at the end of the meeting. Okay, all right. Let me just go back to where I was. Okay, so how do we get in here? So basically what we need to do is to enable the developer mode to allow us to use the unpublished ChatGPT apps, the ones that they're developing. So the way you do that is you go to settings, apps, which is where we were before, you scroll down to advanced settings, and then you just turn on the developer mode. That now means that you get access to all of the internal Apps SDKs that you want to set up. So you'll know you're in developer mode because the chat now has this orange border, and it also says developer mode in a couple of different places as you walk through. So once you have that set up, so we're now going to create the world's simplest MCP server for our Apps SDK. So this Python script sets up a small service using the fast MCP. So it's basically hiding all the complexity of MCPs so that you can just do something really simple. So what we're going to do is we're going to have multiplication. We're going to ask ChatGPT to multiply two numbers. So a couple of things that we need to do is we need to be able to tell the Apps SDK that this is one of the tools that we want to use. So that's when it does its, when you saw that an Instacart, when it was trying to find things, it starts to look for tools. What are the tools that that are available to me that can satisfy this user's request? So if I ask it to do a multiplication, it's going to look to see what tools are out there. You also should put in this decoration here to tell ChatGPT in this format exactly what this tool does. So then it will understand that, okay, this is the tool for multiplying two numbers. This is the one that I need in order to be able to start this. And then the last bit here is just the standard Python to be able to run our MCP. In this case, what we're doing is running it over HTTP on port 8080. Okay, so like I said, the world's simplest hello world MCP server that will allow us to do something simple from within ChatGPT is the Apps SDK. So, okay, so we run the app. I'm going to run it in a second. When we start the MCP, it's running locally on port 8080. So how do I get ChatGPT to see that? So there's a couple of ways of doing it. I tend to use a thing called ngrok. So ngrok, basically, you can use Cloudflare too as well. It exposes our local website to the outside world. So that means that it will give it, in this case, a URL that anybody can hit from anywhere in the world, which is pointing to our local host 8080. So in order to get ngrok working, there's a lot of new people on the meetup tonight. We did do this last month or the month before. So what you have to do is you have to go into the Windows App Store and install ngrok, and then create an account and log into ngrok.com. Once you log in, it has this configuration command, which is basically gives you authorization to use ngrok, so it knows who you are. And then once we want to get it running, basically what we do is we run this ngrok HTTP, and the port that we're using in this case is 8080. And that's how we will get it up and running. Okay, so let me try that real quick. Okay, so I already have it set up here. Each time that you run it, it's going to give you a different domain. So if you are going to submit something to the OpenAI Apps SDK to get it to run, you'll have to have this running somewhere on Amazon or Azure or somewhere else in order for this to be like a production app, because there's no way they're going to let you get away with running it on your local laptop. But for what we're trying to do today, I think this is perfectly reasonable. Okay. So this should be running on port 8080. Let me just get ngrok up running. Okay, so you can see fast MCP. So I'm not going to go into it, but you can use the tool inspector to look at this to make sure that it does what it's supposed to do if you're having any problems. What I am going to do is I'm going to say ngrok HTTP 8080 to get it going. So I now have this URL, which I'm going to use to connect within ChatGPT. So what we do is we go back into our apps, we go to settings, we go to apps. I want to create an app. So what is my tool? So my tool is going to be called multiply Python. This is the URL that I just got from ngrok. I'm just going to add MCP after that, because otherwise it won't be able to find where the tools are. I am going to say no authentication, understanding that MCPs can be a security risk. If you are releasing an app to ChatGPT, you're going to want to make sure that you do have authentication, so you have auth2 set up. I don't think they'll accept a submission with somebody who doesn't have any auth. Okay, so now you see I have this multiply Python here. Okay, so that's great. So everything's working. Maybe if I look to see what's in there, it's saying it's connected. Here are the tools that I have, so it'll multiply two numbers. So yeah, everything's working. So let's start a new chat. And I'm going to say multiply Python. That's how we put it up. And then say multiply. Oh. It's going to call the tool. It's going to ask me for permission. Okay, congratulations. We now have the world's simplest MCP server apps SDK. Okay, and you can see here that it's actually made some real calls. And then with ngrok as well, you can see what's going on. So a lot of times when you run into issues, the three things that I would do is go to see what's happening in VS Code, go to see what's happening in ngrok, and then if you still can't understand what's happening, use the MCP inspector. Okay, let's kill that because we're going to need that in a second. Next step. Okay, so like I showed, you go into settings, advanced settings, create an app, give it a name, cut and paste what you got from ngrok, add MCP afterwards, turn off the authentication, make sure that it's actually connected, and then you should be able to use it in the tool the same as I did. It's going to ask you for permission to do this, and then you get the final answer. Okay, so here's the second app that I wanted to do. So this is a really streamlined version of OpenAI's pizza example that I found on GitHub. And then the link is again on the resources. So in the app, you just add a pizza topping, which gets sent to the MCP and is then displayed on the pizza widget. There are a good half dozen OpenAI ChatGPT app examples out there, but they're so comprehensive that honestly, I was finding it more confusing as I tried to get a handle on what's going on. So there is the simple to-do list example in JavaScript if you want to look at the next level up. And then after that, if you're comfortable with that, then I would suggest looking at the OpenAI examples on GitHub. We may return to this in a month or two to do a deeper dive to pull those apart. But I think we need to do the legwork first before we can get there. So let's go back and look at the diagram we were looking at earlier. Now that we've talked about how this all fits together, again, what we have is we say use whatever it is, Spotify, multiply Python, so that we tell ChatGPT that we want to use this external app. The LLM will do a tool call to the MCP server we built. So it's going to say, what tool will allow me to multiply two numbers? So it knows which of the tools to call. Hopefully this one appropriate. Within that, we have this output template, which is the HTML that we create, which is it's essentially the basis that we inject the basic HTML that we inject all the results into, so that the user can start interacting with the third-party app. And then within our resources, we have to have not only just a register tool, we have to have a register resource, which points at whatever the HTML is on our local file drive. The other thing as well is that the MIME type is text HTML plus SkyBridge. And then what we're doing is we're passing back the playlist so it knows what to talk to. So the window.openai, which we look at in the code, that is the bridge between your front end and ChatGPT. So when ChatGPT loads the iframe, injects the latest tool response into the window.openAPI tool output, which is basically the object specific to the Apps SDK. So that's really how this all works. So there's a single part, a single code in the iframe, and we basically have to push all of the ChatGPT response, or all of our tool response back to that, so that ChatGPT knows that it should inject any of the response from our Spotify or a multiply back into this window.openai and use that to display in the HTML. And then it's not just the first time, so any subsequent calls that you have, they're always going to be looking for window.openai.call tool to return whatever fresh content so that our UI is going to stay in sync with whatever we're trying to do. Okay, so here is the code. So this code sets up, this is the MCP first. So this is Like I said, this is the cut down version. I wanted to get everything on a single slide. So what does it do? So we have right at the start, we're going to load our widget.html, which is the, we go back here. This is the widget HTML. We have to give it the HTML code for whatever it is we're going to pass back. And then we also have a MIME type, which is this text HTML plus Skybridge, which all of the examples have. So I'm assuming that's used in all Apps SDKs. We describe an input schema. So we have, in this case, we're just adding a topping. We're not adding anything else. We have to have our tools. So we register a show widget tool and an example widget tool. And then what we have to do is to be able to handle the resource. So we have this list tools, we have the show widget. The properties are that we're going to pass in are a string, and then we have to say, hey, this is the tool, but the tool is resource. The resource is in the output template. And then the handle resource, basically what that does is it sets up the output template, because we have the widget URI, the MIME type, and the text. Everything should work together. The MCP server is going to handle all the requests. We're going to be able to call the tool, and then basically at the end, what we do is we set up the app. There's a little bit of code here just to start it all, but underneath this, but we set it up as a streamable HTML app, and in this case, what we're going to do is run the server on port 8787, which we haven't shown. Okay, so that's the MCP. So now we need the HTML. So here's the HTML. We have a chat container. Right at the top, we have a form, which is our form to be able to add whatever the topping is that we're trying to do. And then we have some JavaScript logic here. So basically what we have is the most important things would be the bot text, which is welcome to the piece of widget. And then we have the user text, which is whatever the user enters into, oops, gone back too far. Whatever the user enters into the field, and then we use that and send that to the send that back to our HTML, so that when the form is submitted, that it's able to be able to display that within our widget. And then I mentioned earlier about the window.openai tool output. So this is basically the glue which keeps this all together, which allows you to be able to have a ChatGPT that talks to the MCP, that talks to the HTML. The window OpenAI is basically looking to see what the output is, and then it's going to pass that output back into your topping, which in this case, your topping from the server is whatever, pepperoni. Again, we need ngrok. So ngrok to be able to display this to the outside world, so that we can get a URL that we can hit from ChatGPT. So we need to be able to copy that URL. I'll do that in a second. We need to go back into our apps to be able to create the app. So we say simple pizza, we say /MCP, no authentication. Make sure that everything, if all goes well, you should be able to see the show widget, and it should have the output template in here. I found a lot of the times when I've been playing around with this, when the output template doesn't show up, that's when you know you've got problems. So make sure that you have an output template showing up for everything but our simplest hello world that we showed earlier on. Use the @ to find the app to add a pepperoni topping. It's going to ask you for permission, and if all goes well, we should be able to see it. So let's see if we can try that now. Okay. All of this code is up on the GitHub repo, which is in the resources. I did borrow this from another GitHub repo, and that's if you want to see the original, that is in the resources too as well. Okay, so we have our server HTML and our widgets. So server HTML is what we just looked at. Our widget is what we're going to inject the code in. I didn't talk about the CSS, but I'm an engineer, not a designer. Let me just make sure that I did put it in a different port, because I have had problems with ports before. 8787. Great. So now it's running in 8787. So I go back into ngrok, into my command window to run ngrok. Okay. Start a new chat, so it's not going to be confused. Let's go to settings, apps, create app. We are going to say simple pizza. It's the URL. Remember, you have to put MCP on the end of this. Turn off the authentication. Pray that the demigods are good to us. Roll the dice. Yep. So we have our widget there. It's great. Okay. So now what I want to do is say simple pizza. Okay. Topping. And then, yep, it's basically taking the pepperoni and just passed it back. We should be able to see some of the calls that we hear, so you can see what's going on. List tools request, read resource request, and then it's going to call the tool, which is what we need to happen. And then within ngrok, you can see that happen too as well. So yeah, looks like everything worked. Okay, so if it doesn't work, the MCP inspector is your friend. You just gotta basically fire it up, point it at whatever your MCP is, and see if the tools are showing up. And then you can basically interact with it almost like the you would do with calling APIs. So you can enter all the data and make sure that it's doing what it's supposed to be doing, so that you don't have to worry about what's happening with your iframe. You can isolate everything that's happening with the MCP and make sure that it's working perfectly. Okay. If you're happy with the two examples that we just did and you want to go on to do something else, there's a to-do list JavaScript example, which is in the developer's Quickstart. I'll go through all the different examples and URLs in a couple of minutes. So say you've got something that you want to show the outside world. So what do you do now? Because really, this is within the playground. If you haven't played with the playground, let's just show you where that is. Probably going to ask me to log in again. Yes. So this is the backend. So for people who don't use, their programmers basically tend to not use the ChatGPT web interface. You tend to use the playground instead. So on the left-hand side here, there's ChatGPT Apps and create and publish a new app. So essentially what you do is this is where you go to upload all your information to get your app accepted to the App Store, because they're, as of apparently next month, because there was an announcement to say that they were accepting submissions, but as of next month, you should be able to, if you can get through all the bureaucracy, you should be able to see your app as part of the list, along with all those open tables and Instacarts. So I did see a couple of posts on Reddit, which were talking about people who've already done this. The general thing I got was, yes, it works, but they're very pedantic in what they're asking for. So for example, here you need a logo. So you could use the new DALL-E to create your logo, but you got to make sure that it's exactly 64 by 64. Also test everything in dark mode. So you got to make sure that everything will work when you've not just using the light mode, but the dark mode. You need a privacy policy in terms of service, screenshot requirements. So the screenshot width must be exactly 706 pixels, but the height can be between 400 and 800. So they're trying to fit within this real estate for ChatGPT. If you do mess this up, apparently you're not told that you mess it up, it just gets rejected. So that's, if you're getting rejected, make sure that your width is exactly 706 pixels. Tool permissions matter. So the tool permissions that we were doing to multiply, or to do the pizza toppings. We didn't really get into permissions, but you want to make sure that if it's read only, you should make it read only. If it's open to the world, you'll need to tell them, justify why it's open to the world. You'll need to make sure that you have proper authentication set up, and you can't just skip authentication like we have here. You need to, anything that modifies or deletes things, you're going to have to justify it when you get into that section. You need to verify your domain. So basically you have to copy the token, put it up in your godaddy.com and verify the domain. You also need test cases. Even if you've got something really simple, you're going to need some test cases, almost like unit tests for this, so that you can show what you're doing. And then you also need a verified OpenAI developer account. And if you can get through all that, chances are you should be able to get top of the list, because I don't think there's many people doing this just yet. Okay, and then the last thing I want to talk about, apart from wishing everybody a Happy New Year, is just some of the resources. So the first one is our recap. I posted that link to the discussion too as well. This is the Coding for Entrepreneurs, which is where I got the really simple MCP without the user interface, ngrok. Quickstart, if you want to learn more about the to-do list. If you're more of a JavaScript person than a Python person, that'd be the place I'd go to as well. There are about a half a dozen examples here. I also referenced the MCP Jam, where I took that image to show the loop of how everything works together. This is the OpenAI starter, which is the pizza topping example, the really simple one. And then I put everything up on Apps SDK. So let's have a quick look at what everything is. So these are the OpenAI Apps SDK examples. So we have Node and Python examples for kitchen sink. So basically everything. Pizza server, shopping cart, and solar system. So it has like a 3D solar system app if you want to play around with that. But like I said, it gets kind of, there's a lot going on here with all the different widgets and stuff that you have to do. So try to do the simple examples first before we get there. Okay. This is ngrok. This is the Quickstart, which has the to-do list. So you basically have to create a public to-do widget.html, which is this. And then there is a server.js file, which you have to run, which is the same as basically what we were doing within our Python, but it's just in JavaScript. And then it's, yeah, I guess that's a good point. In this case here, we just have an array, which is the list of to-dos. Because it's an MCP, there's no reason why you can't connect to a database, connect to an API, connect to anything you want. So you're literally can connect to anything that's out there, any database, any resources, because the MCP allows you to do that, and ChatGPT App allow you to connect to the MCP. This is the MCP Jam, which is where I got this. So if you need a little bit more information about how this is all fit together, here are the two examples that I did this evening. So at this URL, I always put everything under my name, and then whatever the month is, you should be able to find it. I already did that. Okay. And then here, like I said, is the playground. So with that, I think I'm going to stop sharing and see if anybody has any questions. And I do appreciate you guys hanging out with me the New Year's Eve. I did want to get the last one in, so thanks very much. Okay, anybody got any questions?
Hey, can you hear me, Nolan?
Yes, I can.
And thank you for the demo. That was very helpful. I just wanted to ask, where can I get your resources? Because I've checked both the meetup link or the site for the.
So usually what I do, if you've signed up for this meetup, I'll do it after this meeting. I just post the slides. So I'll post the slides, and then you'll have access to all of the stuff here. And then if you are interested in any of the other earlier meetups, there is a playlist on the discussions. If you go to the discussions, so it has a playlist of the last, whatever, year, 18 months that we've done of all these different things, which is up on YouTube. So you can see it there. And then we convert those YouTubes into blogs. So I can post a link to that too as well. So that should keep you busy. And then somebody asked, Rajesh, hi Rajesh, how are you? Sorry, I cut you off. You got something else to say? Reach out to me if you're stuck to as well. If you can't find anything, I'm more than happy to help. Rajesh, can you do Shopify? Yes, you can do Shopify. Shopify is in the list. So the big things that they're trying to do is that they are trying to pull in all the biggies. So that's the Instacarts, the Shopifys, the Slack. But if you want to find anything, just the way that you do it is, pretty sure I saw an announcement there. So, oops, that's not what I want. Yeah, we go apps. And then if you want to find all the apps, you just go here and
are you sharing your screen or no?
I am not sharing my screen. I'm an idiot.
There you go.
Thank you, Mike. So I tell a lie. It's not there. So no, it's not there yet, but I would expect it to be there pretty soon. I didn't know that there's a shopping cart in here, which I thought maybe that's why I got confused. But Rajesh, I'm wrong. Shopify is not there yet, but I would expect it pretty soon. Abdul, you had a question?
Yes. I actually opened up and accidentally found out by opening up the Google Meet and YouTube that you almost get the effect of a HTML5 widget app by being able to bump the audio up and also be able to work in YouTube by whenever you go in there, it connects to the actual Google Meet, almost like an API SDK itself. It's kind of weird. Have you guys noticed that before?
No, that's cool. Yeah, if you could send me a screenshot or something, I'll take a look.
Presentation, it says I'm in opening up an activity. That was like a hidden API. I didn't even know it was there.
We're all learning tonight. That's really cool. Yeah, Abdul, if you send that to me, I want to take a look.
Yeah, if you just go back through the stream itself and when you're presenting, you'll see at the top it says Abdul Kareem activity above whoever you was presenting. It's
okay.
Cool. Just go look on the YouTube screen. You can see it.
I will take a look. Cheers, man.
I actually posted this out to Robert Scoble and others on Twitter because this is actually kind of cool because it looks like Google and has its own cross-app API where Meet and other internal things are using deep research to be able to let you look at your own quantified self data, whereas the stuff that actually OpenAI is going into their prompt and the prompt engineering stuff. So it's kind of like a fight between the two worlds. Google's giving you more information about yourself.
That's really cool. I'm gonna nerd on that right after this. Thanks, sir. Anybody else?
Hey, otherwise, I have a comment, not a question, but it's a comment. I mean, I looked at the demo and do you think, hypothetically, like the way this app ecosystem is being built right now, we are going to see the end of Google searches and individual apps?
Yeah.
Apps, iPhone, like people will just go through ChatGPT. Like I do all my searches in ChatGPT, and I'm seeing this thing is happening. Like once you have the apps, I don't even need to go to Instacart. I can just
100%, Rajesh. I think this is going to be the new operating system.
Wow.
They're going to push you to using the Atlas browser. Why would you need anything else?
And it remembers the context, the history, everything is there in the context of that.
And then you can connect your own MCPs to your own. You probably don't want to publish any internal data, but you can connect your own MCPs to your chat APIs and share that with the team and allow your accounting people to ask questions from the database that they wouldn't necessarily be able to before and give them a user interface to push them in the right direction. Yeah, I think this is the killer app that's coming, in my opinion, but we're just not there yet.
So is the apps like I might have missed that the apps that you publish, are they like, can you make them private to a team? Like if I have a team of people in my organization and the app that I built, I just want that team to work, use it, not everyone else. Can I make that like scope it to a set of people that can only use that?
Not yet, because at the moment the only people that can use it are the people who created it. But I would. Like I said, this is half-baked. I would expect that that's what the next release is, that we're going to be able to share it with different members of the team, because you can already do that with with you can share chats, so you can basically have multiple people within chats now. So yeah, I would say that's the next logical step.
Cool, very nice. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Abdul, go.
What's weird? I just realized it auto sends out to everybody an invite to chat and the actual on YouTube.
Oh, that's really cool.
RTC or the MCP server protocol to just let you do that, because that means you can combo different features from different apps in that, which is what basically OpenAI is doing. Google's trying to roll their own OS.
Yes, they are. Yeah, I don't see Google as sitting down and taking this lightly. It's 2026 is going to be a fun year when it comes to this stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Deeper. Yeah, maybe we can do a presentation about that.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I mostly do OpenAI stuff because I do everything. I'm playing around with Claude, I'm playing around with Gemini all the time, but I kind of kept this one to OpenAI because the universe is so broad. It's hard to just hit everything. So I might post something though. There's no reason I can do it outside of the meetup. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I'd help out. Here's the thing. I just this month started attaching. With deep research, you can have it look at your Google Docs and your Gmail.
Yep.
And I've noticed, as I do custom search engines, using the Google Search API, I've noticed the accuracy of that, and also my actual searches in email and other things has gone up like 20-30%.
That's amazing.
I don't even I've done a little bit with the Notebook LLM. Mainly I've been using AI mode because I understand.
Yeah, I do like the Notebook LLM. I gotta say that's one of my favorite things.
Tried it a little bit. I found that because I know how to do better queries in Google search, I can tune those a little better because I do my own custom searching and point to different URLs and then add sources in Google search, like make this site a priority source. You can add it like a New Yorker or whatever. I'm able to tune my actual thing better. But with Notebook LLM, what I do notice is the ones that are pre-built, like MCP server.
Oops, wrong one.
Those are super useful.
Yay, let me just do something real quick.
For content prompt engineering, one that tells you all the different ways you can write prompt things. And I see just built on 44, what was it, Block 44 or whatever, I got that app site, an actual copy paste app that copy paste from your clipboard. Because a lot of times I have different texts I'm looking at and tuning prompts. And I'm like, I need to be able to tune it better and have a place to put it. And the app lets other people put their actual whatever they're looking at in the same clipboard holder. I call it clip cache.
Cool. I just I put a link, just showed the link for the recap we did. I tried to do it in Sora, didn't work. So maybe next year when I do the recap, I'll be able to do it AI generated, but this was lots of human intervention. Okay, we're after 8 o'clock. I don't want to take up any more of your time. I really appreciate everybody joining. You guys are the coolest. Over the holidays too as well. I hope you learned something. I'll post the slides right after this, and then hope to see you next month when we talk about using the ChatGPT locally so you don't have to pay any money. Thanks, guys. Happy New Year to you, Rajesh. You still got a question, Abdul? What's up? Or was that from earlier? I think it's from earlier.